and welcome once again to this meeting. Now, why? The first question is why? Why are we having this meeting, and why are we having it in an advanced format? So the first answer is to provide an opportunity to those members who miss out on the Wednesday meeting for certain reason. And why do we have it in the advanced format? Because we want to try something new and give something new to the members. So it is open to our members, and in fact, it is open to even other clubs. If they want to have their speeches evaluated in the advanced format, they are more than welcome to enlist for this particular meeting. And it will also serve another purpose, and the purpose is having an education session in every meeting. So this is just the inaugural education session. Yeah, so, and I welcome my friend, Toastmaster Isaac Ford. This will be the inaugural session, but every academy meeting will have an inaugural session, and it will be from someone within the district or even outside the district. And the topics will be, of course, communication and leadership related. So this is one idea that I took from one of my clubs, Leaders Worldwide, because they have a keynote in every meeting. So I said, why not combine everything else? So why advanced evaluations? Now, advanced evaluation, first of all, is considerably more candid than a routine evaluation. And that's for all the evaluators to take note. You can be candid. Candid in the sense that if you need to focus only on the improvement areas, you can do that. Because when someone signs up for an advanced evaluation, they are signing up for something much more in-depth and something much more, I won't use the word blunt, but you get the idea. So why do we need that though? Now, let me try to give you an illustration. This is an image that is low resolution. It's called 240p, and it means it is with a resolution of 360 by 240. And it comes in a few kilobytes of data. Moving on, the next stage we have 480p image, which is 640 by 480, and this used to be the resolution that the DVDs used to come in. This is also called the VGA resolution, 480p. You must have heard the term. Now you can see at 240p versus 480p, the character is a little more detailed, right? But it is also consuming more data. Not twice the data, but 4 times the data, just for this additional bit of clarity. Then we move on to 720p, which is 1280 by 720 pixels. Now 640 by 480, 640 multiplied by 2 is 1280. 480 multiplied by 2 should be 960, but it is 720 because the aspect ratio is also changing. These aspect ratios are more towards the square root side, 3 by 2. And now we are moving towards 720, which is, I don't know how to say it. It's 1280 by 720, 12 by 7, right? Because these aspect ratios are funny, as the graphic designers would know. There is no predefined standard. Anyhow, you can see now 360p versus 480p versus 720p. Ironically, this monitor is only 1080p, so it has its limitations as well. But you can see that at 720p, there's a little bit more detail and definition. And in isolated areas, it can seem very tiny and insignificant, but in terms of the overall image, it really does make a difference. Now we move on to the next stage. 720p versus 1080p. This is slightly exaggerated, let me tell you. 1080p, you can see the actor's face quite clearly, all the contours, versus 720 is a little blurrier and 480 is still a little blurrier. But the funny thing is, versus 720p, 1080p consumes twice the data. It's called the 2 megapixel image. And that's where why is it 2 megapixel? Because 1080, 1920 by 1080 is exactly 2 million pixels. So that's the aspect ratio, 19 by 10, and that's what most monitors today are built around. And you can see there's an additional amount of detail, but it also requires twice the amount of data versus 720. So if you compare it to the original 240p, it requires more than, I think, 16 or 20 times the data for one single frame. Then we further move on to something this monitor cannot display, which is 4K or 3860 by 2160, which is called 4K image or ultra high definition. Now you can see the law of diminishing returns. Moving on from 1080p to 4K does not bring a whole lot of additional clarity, but if you look at the details, it does bring quite a bit of additional clarity. It's not as if it's completely wasted. It's just that 1080p maybe is good enough. So consider our routine evaluations 1080p and consider our advanced evaluations 4K. It's much more detailed. It requires 4 times the data. This is an 8 megapixel image versus 2 megapixels. So yeah, I think it's a nice correlation. 1080p, 1 evaluation, 4K, 4 evaluations. Why do you need all this data? The more data you have, the more information you can represent on the screen and the more you can refine your speech. That's what it's all about. The more feedback you have about your speech, the more you can define it, the more granular you can make it. So that is the whole point of advanced evaluations. They are a little more blunt and they provide you a lot more data. In fact, the evaluation session is as long as your speech itself, right? So that is what advanced evaluation gives you. If you really want to hone your speaker's skills and you really want to do it at a fast pace and you have the stomach to get so much feedback, which will be blunt by the way, then you are all set for an advanced evaluation. Now, what happens in an advanced evaluation? The difference between normal evaluation and advanced evaluation is that advanced evaluation is immediate. It happens immediately after a speech, although it's not hard and fast. In our club, we have made that format. In some clubs, again, all the speeches are done first and then the advanced evaluations start. But in our club, we have done, since we have only 2 speeches, so we have done it immediately. So first of all, the immediacy means that the response will be candid, will be potentially unstructured and very, very vivid because the evaluator has just listened to the speech. So they're just giving their first reaction to a speech. So that won't be the carefully considered and refined feedback that we usually give in the journal evaluation session. There's another crucial difference. We also want to win the best evaluator award while we are giving evaluations in a routine speech. Congratulations, there's no such award in this meeting. So you can be as much blunt as you want. Of course, within the sandwich principle and within the principles of Toastmasters, being candid does not mean that you can do away with the Toastmasters value. You always have to uphold them. But it will be much more immediate, much less well-adorned, much more direct. And then there are commendations and recommendations. So the first evaluation is a routine evaluation, 2 to 3 minutes. Then there are 2 commendations, 2 people who just give commendations, what they felt was good about this. So commendation means praise. So points of praise about the speech in 1 minute. And then recommendations. Again, note, there is no slot for criticism. There's no slot for negative points. It's recommendations. So recommendations means what could have the speaker done better? 2 slots for that. So the main evaluator, you both are supposed to lead the team of evaluators. You will set the tone. You will be doing the first evaluation of 2 to 3 minutes immediately after the speech. And then you will ask the commenders and the recommenders one by one to take the stage and deliver their commendations and recommendations within 1 minute. And then the speaker themselves have a 1 minute slot to respond. In advanced clubs, this is called a rebuttal, but I think the term is quite negative in its connotations. So I think it should be called response. So for example, if someone suggests to me during my speech that you could have incorporated a story into this, and maybe that is the running theme throughout the uh, evaluation. So I can either say that yes, your feedback is accepted, and yes, I'll try to incorporate a story in the next version of my speech, or I can say that I felt there was not a place for a story in this speech because the other stuff that I had to speak on during 5 to 7 minutes was quite enough to fill the whole body. So again, it can be any kind of feedback. What the speaker will be doing is they will be taking in the feedback, first of all, thanking all the evaluators and also giving their point of view about why they did certain things. See, why does that happen? Because an evaluation is merely an opinion, and a speaker is always at liberty to take or leave whatever part they want to. And that's journal principle of evaluations, Toastmasters evaluations. You don't have to take the evaluator's words like it is some sort of divine commandment. It's just their opinion. And if you feel that some of the evaluation was relevant and some was not, then you're free to make that decision and you won't be judged because of that. And why do I give that story example? Because there are some evaluators within our club and certain other clubs too, who like to evaluate by remodeling the speech for the speaker. You must have seen those evaluators. And again, it is a valid approach according to them. But I think that you need to stay within the bounds of the speech, within what the person has written. I mean, seriously, if the person has, let's say, told the story of Romeo and Juliet in the speech, the evaluator is effectively saying, okay, but I wish it was more like Cinderella. So adding a whole wish list content-wise, I think it's something, personally, I don't prefer. Again, I don't pretend to be a master at this. It's just my personal preference. And I'm just giving it as an example of how two evaluators can differ, or how the speaker and evaluator can differ with each other. So if you're saying that, you could have added this, you could have added this, you could have told us a little more detail about this. So you're adding a whole wish list of your own desired content onto the content that was already there. So maybe, again, that is valid for some speakers and maybe for some it's not. So again, it's a science and it's an art. It's not an exact science, right? It's not deterministic. It very much depends upon the speaker's own preferences, their worldview, what they want to communicate. And it very much depends upon the evaluator's perspective, whether they want to focus on the content or on the delivery, whether they were okay with the content or maybe they found content a little bit lacking according to their judgment. So it's all what you can say a two-way dance between the speaker and the evaluator. And all it does result is in that there's a host of feedback for the speaker from which they can pick and choose according to their own judgment. But again, let me caution here, especially the new speakers. Just because an evaluation is an opinion does not mean that you are authorized to just reject it outright. I know a person that used to do it in their first few speeches. Not me, it was a friend. So I just used to say that, okay, yeah, okay, find the improvement areas. I'll see about it. I mean, they did not seem important to me, but they are important because the evaluator has taken the time and effort to actually evaluate your speech. So that needs to be respected. Even then, and you should at least give it a try. You should at least see the feedback and see whether it fits your project or not. If you decide after that, after a very objective evaluation, that this is not something I want to do, then you're free to do that. But don't reject it outright just because it's an opinion. And especially don't reject it if it comes from someone you don't like. Because first of all, if you don't like someone, chances are they also don't like you. So you both are even in that respect, but they also have to exhibit their evaluation skills in front of the whole club. So please don't think that if someone is being harsh on you in evaluation, they don't like you. They are being sincere, and that should be your first assumption, whether you agree with your evaluation or not. So with that, this session comes to a close. I thank everyone for listening and being patient. And we can start now. I think, Dr. Latif, we have a 5-minute Q&A, if I'm correct. Yeah.
Yes.
So anyone who wants to ask a question, please raise your hand, or you can write it in the chat box as well. We have 5 minutes. No questions? Like, did I bore everyone to sleep? Yeah, Toastmaster Ravi.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, I just lost the, yes, the one thing that we'll be giving the evaluation right after the speeches?
Yes.
Or we'll wait? Okay. So we'll not wait for the journal evaluation session. We'll just after the speeches we'll be having them. Okay,
journal evaluation is just supposed to comment on the meeting itself and maybe just add something to the evaluations. And plus they will also host the
so we'll have the first speech and then we'll have the evaluation right after that, and then the recommendation and the commendation.
All and the feedback, all in one flow.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Great. Okay.
I have a small question. Please go ahead.
No, please you continue. I will just ask after.
Just because I'm about to give a speech, I just wanted to gain a little bit more clarity on how the timer will work. Usually it's green. For me, it's going to be 5 minutes. Then at 6, it's going to be yellow and red. How is it different this time? I couldn't grasp it completely.
No, for the speech and your first evaluation, it will be exactly the same. So 5, 6, 7, right? For the speech, it will be exactly the same. For the first evaluation, again, exactly the same. 2 minutes green, 2.5 minutes yellow, 3 minutes red, and 3:30 disqualified. For commendations and recommendations and speaker's response, it will be just 1 minute. So we won't be showing the whole 3 cards. We'll just be showing the red card once a 1 minute or so. Otherwise, for the speaker, the experience is exactly the same.
Okay, thank you. I think someone else had a question. I interrupted.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question that if someone I will ask afterwards, but the one thing is this detailed evaluation comprises of how many minutes? There's a normal evaluation and this one is a detailed one, right? So
no. But the detail comes from the number of evaluations rather than the duration. So the first lead evaluator does the evaluation, which is exactly as per convention, 2 to 3 minutes, right? And then there are 2 commendations, 1 minute each, 2 recommendations, 1 minute each. So additional 4 minutes. So that's where the detail level comes from, not for the duration of individual evaluations. Is that clear?
DTM Talha, Janzeb Shah, please.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead, Janzeb.
Yes, DTM Talha, sorry, I missed the link between advanced evaluation and general evaluation. Is it like a speaker chooses to get evaluated in an advanced manner, or what is it like?
Okay. So first of all, the link between advanced and so since in this advanced meeting format, the evaluations take place immediately after the speech. So the GE session does not cover the speech evaluations. GE does not call upon the evaluators. It is the TMOD that is doing it, right? And so that's the first difference. The second is GE session does not have the speech evaluations, although the journal evaluation can add their own take on some things. Either on the speeches or the evaluations. It is in fact their job because they are evaluating the whole meeting. And then they will host the facilitator reports and then give their view about the meeting. So that is one thing. About the second thing, if someone enlists for this session, the academy session, that means that they are enlisting themselves for the advanced evaluation. In a normal meeting, in our conventional open house meeting, of course, we will have conventional evaluation as per routine. And if someone opts to participate in this particular session on Saturdays, then that means that they are putting themselves up for advanced evaluation. And let me also clarify one more thing. Usually advanced evaluations take place for advanced projects, level 4, level 3, level 4 and 5 projects. But I'm slightly against that because that limits the scope of the projects. I'm pretty much open to any project being evaluated in an advanced manner. It doesn't have to be a level 3, 4, or 5 project. So that is why. And plus, the format of advanced meetings is not a hard and fast set rule. Clubs, several advanced clubs do have their own take. So with that, I hand over the charge back to our Toastmaster of the day.